The microphone. There. Do we have sound? Hopefully. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. I'm all by my lonesome today in the studio. Renee's a little under the weather today, so he is, although he's going to be monitoring us, he's not going to be down here playing in the sandbox. Yay! Thanks, Sheila. I'm glad we have sound. I forgot to turn on the mic. So Renee has me all kitted out with a ton of gear. I have laptops in front of me. I have my phone in front of me so I can watch the Facebook stream and the chat on the YouTube channel. And then I have a stream deck over here so I can switch between cameras. And he may pop on a little later on to spin the wheel for us. So as I said, he is not feeling well today. So he's just going to take a little break. We do have a couple of things to cover before we go dive right into painting this little teacup. I love this piece. It's been a week, quite literally. I've had computer issues, internet issues, my printer, like you name it. If anything technologically could go south this week, it did. It's been one of those weeks. So even the email from the website literally packed it in this week. I don't know what happened. But I had no access to email. Even my personal email hasn't been functioning the way it has. So it's just been a week. So let's just say I'm very glad it's Saturday. I've been looking forward to today. I do have to send out some thanks. Sandy Barton, sweetie, got your card last week. Thank you so much. Always, her little notes of sunshine always seem to pop up at the time when I need them the most. So thank you very much, Sandy. It was very sweet of you. Happy mail this week, tons of stuff coming in, and we haven't been able to update the website properly because of computer issues. So I'll be doing that later in the week. I was lucky I got the pattern for today up. That's been a whole nother thing. So I'm going to be spending my Sunday updating the website now that everything seems to be knock on wood, functioning the way it's supposed to. So we'll get a bunch of new stuff up because we've got new surfaces coming in. We've got new stencils coming in. We have a whole bunch of new stuff. So that is what my Sunday is going to be taken up doing, is getting caught up on last week. Because it was a week. Seemed like we had two of them all slammed together. The only thing that I did manage to do this week was go get my hair cut because I couldn't stand it any longer. It was driving me crazy. So I had her cut it a little shorter. So it's tucked behind both ears right now because it's just hot and sticky. So we're going to be painting this fun little teacup. Deb Antonik cut this great little surface for me, created a butterfly. And then, of course, the butterfly teacups are super cute, but you need one for Christmas. So talked to my friend Karen Beaupre. She made me some cookies that I could add to the teacups. So I've got a pile of cookies in different shapes. So today we're going to be doing the one with Bob. I just love the little gingerbread cookies. They're super cute. And I've got a Halloween one coming too, a Halloween teacup. So I think you're going to like that one. I have next Saturday's is also a Christmas teacup. Just because once I got started, I couldn't get stopped. So I have another Christmas teacup for you. It's super cute. It's this one here with the little star cookie and the holly leaves. And this one was just so much fun to paint. So we're going to be painting that one next Saturday, which is called Peppermint Tea and Cookies. So that one it's just too cute. Totally outside of my usual color palette, like completely left of center. Do have a few hellos to say. Judy Farmer, sweetie, it's nice to see you on here. Judy's from Alaska. And Sheila Landry, thank heavens for you, Sheila. You're a godsend. Thanks for joining us. Debbie Marlowe, Carolyn Pritchett, I'm sorry, Carolyn, I got that messed up. Hi, Robin Storm. Mwah. And on Facebook, we have Barbara Lozen and Cheryl Buckland and Kathleen Corman and Jan Schaefer. Hello, gang. Virginia Hedges and Eve Lacoste and Corinne Kinsman-Raffos. Thank you for joining us today. going to have fun. I managed to spill my coffee. So, giveaways today. Haven't touched on that. We do have a really great giveaway for you today. Aside from the usual goodies that we tuck into the giveaways, there's a really cool stamp from Multicraft out of Ottawa. So there's a nice little butterfly stamp in there. And of course, there's one of our fun little stencils. We're heading into fall, so we've got a pretty little sunflower stencil in the giveaways today. And then what's a stencil without a great stencil brush? So we have a 2-brush set of Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brushes. So we have 3 of those to give away today. So nice little goodie bags going out on Monday. So hopefully you like and share the Facebook page, the Tracy Morrow Live Facebook page. And if you're not a member of my, or not a member, not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the big red subscribe button and join us every Saturday. And don't forget to turn on your bell notifications so that you know when we go live or when we post new video. Yes, Judy, they are fun giveaways. I'm not sure who has more fun getting them. You guys, when you receive them, or me putting them together, it's like packing Christmas presents. It's always a fun thing to do before a Saturday. So we're going to get started with this piece. I like this. Holiday Tea and Cookies. I like this one. It's a simple design, just doing some simple holly leaves and berries. Got a couple of little tricks I'm going to show you to do stripes, so that you're not painting forever and a day and you get nice, clean, straight stripes. And then we're going to paint a bob. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today. So if you guys are ready to get started, so am I. Just bear with me because I have to do everything today. Let's see. Look at that. That went a lot smoother than I was expecting. A lot smoother. Cheryl, yeah, I'm really liking the kind of in the holiday thing right now. Don't ask me why. Maybe because the weather got a little bit cooler and it's, bearable, because it hasn't been. It's been misery. We had lots of storms roll through last night, lots of thunder, lots of lightning, but no heavy winds, nothing major as far as damage goes. So it's all good. So the piece that we're painting today, I just think he's cute. And this is such a cute surface. This is the one we're painting. I love this little ginger bob. He's so cute. Just a very simple gingerbread cookie. And I want to do something a little festive, a little elegant. And then, of course, me and my black and white polka dots. I gotta give up on the polka dots at some point, but it's not yet because I really like them. This is a really fun piece to do. It's simple, and it's meant to be simple. So we're going to work on doing this really elegant leaves and then this fun little cookie, which I just think he's so super cute. I mean, what's Christmas without a gingerbread cookie? And, but I wanted to show you a nifty trick for doing these stripes so that you get nice, crisp, clean, straight stripes with minimal bleeding and whatnot. So I'm going to show you a really neat trick to do this. So that is our project for today. So what I've done, I base coated my teacup with lamp black, and then I taped off the bars on the outer edges. And you're going to work from the outside in. It's just simpler this way. Now I'm using a really good quality painter's tape. This is a 3M 21-day safe release. It's a really good quality painter's tape. And I burnished the edges of the tape where I need the clean lines. And I'm going to use a little bit of matte medium. One of my favorite products. This is the Deckwart Media Matte Medium. And you're going to just put a light coat on the edge of the tape. You can put it over the whole space if you want to. It's not going to hurt it, but you just want a light coat wherever the tape is. Not super thick, but just a light coat, like so. And we'll close that up. And then you're going to dry this. Now, I've seen people do this with varnish. I've seen them people do it with a variety of things. You could even use the base color, the lamp black. If you don't have a matte medium, it'll also work. But essentially what you're doing is sealing the edge of the tape. It has more to do with the tape and less to do with the surface. So then, whatever color you're going to be putting on that stripe, you're going to base coat. In this case, we're using a little bit of warm white. Now, putting down that little bit of matte medium just seals the edge of the tape. But it has an added benefit. If I were to do this with black paint and then put 2 coats of white down, you tend to get a pretty thick ridge at the edge of the tape. Whereas the matte medium is a thinner viscosity, so it gives you very little of a ridge. So it just makes for a better application in the end. I'm having way too much fun with these teacups. I've got a Halloween one planned that I think you'll like. And the Christmas ones I'm having way too much fun with. And what goes better with a cup of tea than a cookie, so. I just have a quick look. Because it's just me today, I'm may miss any questions. I'm trying not to, but I might miss them. So I'm going to remove the tape. But what this method does is this. Look at how clean that line is. It gives you a nice sharp edge. So, and then removing tape, 45-degree angle, peel it back on itself like this. If you pull straight up, you're going to put too much tension on it. You more often than not will end up taking some of your base color off or tearing the new paint that you just put down. So 45-degree angle and pull it back on itself. Lowest possible angle. And then look at how nice and clean that line is. There's no furring, there's no bleeding. So that light thin coat of matte medium over the edge of the tape. And lighten the fan, doesn't have to be a heavy coat. And then it's minimal. The ridge that you get here is minimal than if you used the base color. So it makes for a nice clean line. So if you wanted to continue that, now you have to back tape. Now technically what that means is that I would just tape over the white, but we're going to, because we're creating a stripe, I'm going to come back to this. So it's just getting the angle. Now the easiest way to do this, obviously, is to trace your line drawing on and then follow the indicators that I have on the line drawing. That's just the simplest method. But to paint the next stripe, you're obviously going to the other side and then to this side. Like so. So that you have an opening. And then you just repeat the whole process. Put that light coat of matte medium over the edges of the tape and then let it dry and then base coat your piece. So what you end up with is this. So you have a nice, clean, no furring, no fuzzy lines. So you get a nice, clean image. That matte medium does a wonderful job of this. One of those products that just works like a hot damn. Hi, Debbie. No, you don't have to subscribe every week. Once you hit the subscribe button, you're a subscriber and that's it. Just turn on your bell notification and it'll let you know when we go live. We do have them back ordered. So if you order one, it just means that as soon as they come in, your order will be filled. But yes, the teacups, we do have more coming. I was blown away at how fast those went. they went very quickly. We had a full stock and they were gone literally within an hour. It was insane. So yes, but thankfully I had already pre-ordered and they should be here Monday. So we have a bunch of stuff coming on Monday. A whole bunch of stuff coming on Monday. So I have my line drawing. In case you're wondering, this is how when I'm designing. This one looks like a dog's breakfast, but there's a reason. Because I have a tendency to make notes while I'm painting it. So I'm just going to cut out my teacup like so. That's why I always make a photocopy of my line drawing, because I cut them up. I don't know if we've been having like solar flares or sunspots or whatever it is, but we have had just ridiculous volume of electronic issues. Even I have a great big color laser printer here in the studio, and it decided to eat the paper the other day, and it took us 2.5 hours to get the jam out. Thing has never jammed before, but it did this week, and when it does it right. So I've got this. To me is just the easiest way to do this, is just to cut that shape so that it fits your surface. And then I'm going to use 2 colors of graphite paper. I'm going to use gray and I'm going to use white. And I'm going to start with the gray. Slide that under there, and my red gel pen. Now this way I'll be able to see my line drawing on this surface, because I'll have done it in both gray and white, because I have a black and white surface. Whereas if I have white, I wouldn't be able to see it on everything. So it just means that I have to trace everything twice, but that's okay. I'm good with it. And this is not a complex design, so it's not difficult to trace, nor does it take long to do it. So I am off to, I have a full schedule coming up. It's just crazy. We have lives. We do have some videos going up because I'm going to be away in September for a couple of weekends. So there won't be a live, but we are filming your video in the next week or so for those classes. So there will be video, even though I won't actually be live, but you will have a fun project to do. So we'll give you more information on that. I have a couple of travel teaching. I'm going to be teaching in person in a couple of places. And I'm pretty excited about that, because I get to go and paint with painters and actually talk to them. So I'm looking forward to it. And I also have a full slate of Zoom classes coming up too, so which is fun. So I've got the bulk of this traced with the gray graphite, and I'm going to show you a trick. Holly berries. That's when I break out my shape maker. All those little holly berries. Nice thing about a shape maker is it has all of these circles in various sizes, and all I have to do is find the one that fits the size of the berry that I'm tracing. So I can put that right there, and I can trace my berries. And this keeps them round. I don't end up with egg-shaped berries. That drives me crazy, trying to keep a round berry round. chilly Calgary, Alberta. It's chilly in Calgary? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm not being able to keep up with the chat at both at the same time. So I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any questions, so bear with me. Renee is, I think most of you know, Renee has suffers from TN, and he's in the middle of a bad flare today, so he's not in any shape to be doing a live. And I'm wondering if I just put, they did. I am such a knucklehead. Look at that. I traced absolutely nothing. My graphite was upside down. I swear to God. Some days. See? Even on a good day. And I was having a good day. I can mess up like nobody's business. My graphite paper was upside down. Brilliant. Utterly brilliant. Oh, she needs to ask what's for dinner. I'm making butter chicken. Again. It's to me that's, when I don't feel like cooking anything significant, it's an easy one. Because I can just pop chicken and all the goodies into a crock pot and I'm good to go. So, but yes, butter chicken. Yes, Kathy, I know. I've done that so many times. Worst of it is that I had flipped it over and then promptly flipped it right back over. So, okay. So we have proven that I'm human. I think didn't you see my thought for the day today? Some days I'm a French fry short of a Happy Meal. That's the day. Yeah, September is proving to be a very busy month. I like it that way. And I'm really excited that I'm doing some travel teaching. I'm really excited about that. One of the things that I've really missed is actually being in a classroom. Look at that. I got it this time. So let's try let's try the berries again. Yes, it does give me more time to chat with you. I was going through my stash. I think we all do that every once in a while. I have so many really cool new surfaces coming in. Of course, I was looking for a spot to store some of them because, well, we're limited on space in this studio, so I kind of have to go hunting for space. And every once in a while, I think it behooves us to go through our stash. So I was going through mine, and I ended up with a pile of, ooh, I got a design on this. Ooh, I have to put something on that. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so now I have a stack sitting on my desk of these beautiful surfaces that I need to design something on. And need being the operative word. Jan, anytime, don't chicken out. If you think I've put it on upside down, by all means tell me, because it's sitting right in front of my face and I still managed to miss it. So, okay, make sure. Yes, it's the right side down. Okay. So, it is one of those common problems. I think every one of us has done that at least once. At least once. Put your graphite paper on upside down. I've had a few memorable ones, like truly memorable ones. But it is the nature of our craft, I'm afraid, that we're bound to make those little errors. It keeps me grounded. Some days you guys are so sweet that I'd have to butter my ears to get out the door. My head swells so bad. But yeah, little things like that have a tendency to put you in your place. Remind you of your place in the food chain. It's not not never a bad thing to be reminded to be humble. And I do have a couple of people I gotta say hi to. One is Mary. Hello, sweet Mary. I know you're watching. I know you're watching because Linda reminded me that you're watching. And hello, sweet Linda. I'm looking. Ooh, leftover kebabs. That sounds delicious. Oh, you're making a vat of red sauce tomorrow? I like how she uses the term vat. There's just her and Keith, yet she's making a vat. There, look at that. I think I have managed to get it all traced on there without, completely messing it up. Oh, maybe not. Okay. See, the universe is just trying to keep me humble. There we go. Much better. Kinda. Never a bad thing. There we go. And I have nice round berries. Except for that one. That one's not round. Honestly. Here we go. Excellent. All right. So, I have everything traced on there. So now I can see it clearly. No, I just sort of gauged where the white and the black stripes were. Just so that I can see where everything is. Hello, Miss Ann Fogg. How are you, sweetheart? She's the loveliest accent. Okay. So we're ready to paint our teacup. Now, one of the colors that I chose for this teacup is holly green and festive green. Or not festive green. What color is it? Sour apple. Good heavens, I'm not thinking straight today. So sour apple, and then I chose a neon green to really punch up and amplify those the highlights on these leaves. I really wanted these leaves to look sharp, like they have that point. And so I used some really high contrast, bright greens, so they pop off of that black. So we need to put some polka dots onto our teacup, and we're going to do that with a 1/2-inch stencil brush and a little bit of lamp black. I have a talent today for dropping things. So I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black and a 1/2-inch stencil brush. Now, if you wanted, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing the opposite of what I've done. I used black on white. You don't have to do that. You could switch it out and do the white on the black. So if you prefer a lighter color, perhaps something a little less busy, by all means. Or you could completely rearrange the color palette in this and go with a white handle, black stripe, white stripe, so on. Just reverse how I've done this. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to use my lamp black, and I'm using a 1/8 stencil. This is an M square 1/8 polka dot. This is, I think, one of my favorite stencils, is this 1/8. Now, these polka dots do not have to be perfect. And in fact, it's more interesting if they're not. I kind of like the distressed look when they're imperfect. And I'm going to just reposition my stencil so I can finish out the polka dots on this side. And it's just a little bit of lamp black. You don't need a lot of color for this. A little smudge of black on your palette's all you really need. I'm quickly having a look at the chat. Who has to bail Deb out? Deb, which Deb? Would be my question. There we go. Polka dots. This is just a fun little design to pop in there. So it doesn't, like, you're not married to this. You don't have to stick with just the color palette that I've used or the stencil I've used. You could go to a larger polka dot. You could go to a check if you wanted to. There's absolutely nothing that says you have to do it exactly the same way that I have. I just happen to like polka dots. That's a thing for me. I like polka dots. So polka dots it is. We're going to play with the shape maker today too, a lot, so that you can see how I use it for when I'm designing, because I think it's just a fun way to function. Now, the colors that I chose for the holly, the base color is lush green. I'm a fan. I love this green. It's a little bit more opaque than antique green. Snowflakes would be cute. So we're going to use a little bit of lush green. And I'm going to use I'm going to base coat mine with a number 2 rigger. Just because I want to keep the edges clean and sharp. And I have a little bit of Jo Sonja's, of course. That's my favorite stuff. Oh, this jar. I think it's time for a new jar. It's getting harder and harder to open it. It's all gummed up on the edges. So I'm going to use a little bit of lush green to base coat all of these leaves. I like the rigger for this because I can get nice clean edges, like so. And because we're working on black, I found that these earthy greens tend to look a little meh over top of black, which is why I always tend to go towards a really vibrant yellow green or a high yellow green for highlights, because I like that bright contrast, and you need it to keep it nice and lively when you're working with black or with very dark backgrounds. Otherwise, things tend to look a little meh, little lifeless and a little heavy, and I didn't want this to look heavy. Now, ordinarily, well, I shouldn't say ordinarily because it depends on depends on how anxious I am to get painting. I will float a little asphaltum around this design, but I'm going to do that afterwards, because I don't want this to get too dark right away. So I'm going to do it afterwards. So I love this green. It's just so vibrant against when you put those other vibrant, it's a great base for those brighter greens. And I like the earthy tones more than the jewel tones. That tends to be my go-to, is the more earthy and warm tones as opposed to the jewel tones. See, Debbie Buckman, or Easton, I am with you. There's something dainty and feminine about those tiny little polka dots. There's something feminine about polka dots in general. So I came across a surface while I was going through my stash the other day that I've had for a while. And I've had several design ideas for it, but none of them were talking to me, if you know what I mean. And then the other night I was doodling and I got thinking about Christmas cookies, as I usually do, because I don't know, Christmas just says cookies to me. So I got thinking about that. And the next thing you know, I've got doodles for accessories for the teacups because, to me, everything has to go together. So I have this wonderful rolling pin surface that I'm really excited about. And I was playing around with another set of teacups when something came to me. The next thing you know, I've got a rolling pin and a teacup and cookies. And so just a frightening view into how my brain works when it decides to work. Sometimes it's just all firing on the same cylinder. So we've got a little bit of holly. And I have a couple of small little leaves in here. And we're just about done with this base coat. Now, generally, I don't often put on more than one coat because we're putting so many other colors on top of this. How about a cream and sugar bowl? Oh, Kathy, what a great idea. Deb Antonek's going to kill me because I keep sending her stuff to cut. Every time she turns around, it's like, can you make me this? Can you make me this? Can you make me that? So she's just going to, yell at me and say no one of these days. Because my brain, fortunately for me, my best friend's brain functions much like mine. Me and Deb and Sandy and we all think alike, which is kind of scary when you think about it. I don't know how to put it. We get the bouts of inspiration, and then it just sort of feeds off of one another. And the next thing you know, we've got a pile of things that none of us have time to paint. So, yep, the white has a tendency to show through that green a little bit on the black. It's not passing the light through. So that's the only thing. But this lush green is already a little bit more opaque than the antique green to start with. And yes, I absolutely agree, Linda. We do need a teapot if we're going to have a cream and sugar. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be cute? You could have a whole window full. Teapots, creamers, and sugars. That would be so cute in a kitchen. There we go. A little thin in a couple of spots. I'm just touching up a bit. And what do we see? So the butterflies. I have 300 butterflies coming Monday or Tuesday. The butterfly thing has kind of gotten out of hand. I'm enjoying it immensely. I sat here the other day and I've got a grand total of 72 color combinations so far. And so I'm just, putting a new one out every day or so that you guys can see. And I'm using the butterfly merely as a platform to show you what those colors look like. And I'm choosing nice colors. So I'm really having a lot of fun with the butterfly thing. Like a lot of fun with the butterflies. The only downside is that I have a pile of painted butterflies. So I've been using a little bit of resin to put some shine on them, gluing a pin on the back, and I'm just throwing them in with stuff. So if you happen to get a butterfly in your order, that's why, because they're piling up. I have a lot of butterflies. So I'm just testing out various color combinations. Sometimes you don't know what colors can go with various colors. So that was the whole point behind this, was just to give you some idea of how you could use some of the colors you already have in your paint rack. And yeah, that's exactly the whole idea. Those color combinations. You can do me a little favor though. When you see the color combinations, if you just pop a little comment in the comment section, it just helps spread it out a little bit. And that's all it does. It gets it out, gives it a bit more reach. So you can share it, you can throw a little comment in, even if it's just a little heart or a little thumbs up or a little whatever, throw a little comment in. Believe it or not, it helps us. So, and we appreciate you guys a whole bunch. So, and I got new pin kits that are going out with the orders. I have the ones that are going out right now. We have little seahorse pin kits that are too stinking cute. So we have those going out, and we have mittens with a little tiny snowflake. They're super cute. You're going to love them. So while I have this rigger out and it's wet and I have white paint on my palette, I'm going to put a coat of white on the berries that are on the black stripes. It's a little coat of white. Well, so much for keeping that one round. I just smooshed the paint. There we go. And we got a berry over here. Good morning, Cat McDonald. Nice to see you on here. And Kelly Albright Cave. Hello. Kathy Williams. Welcome. There we are. So I've got my berries base coated white. Now I want nice bright red berries on here. And because I'm painting over top of the black, they would have a tendency to be a little dark and perhaps a little somber. And I really want nice, bright. Deb Bloomfield, a substitute for Lilac Meadow. Purple Petal. Purple Petal is going to be about the closest. Or you could add a little bit of warm white to Wild Orchid. Either one of those will work. Yeah, you can go ahead and use the stencil. That's one of the fun things about using a shape maker. Is go ahead. It'll make a nice circle. If you feel you want to do that, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. Jeanette Benoit, hello. Nice to see you. Oh, we finally have cooler weather. I'm enjoying every minute of it. So we're going to paint those berries with a little bit of country red. This is my favorite red. It's in keeping with that green. You know, this is a more earthy green. Well, country red is a more earthy red. It's a warmer red, tends to fall on the orange side of the spectrum, so it's a little on the earthy side. So is tomato red. That's another one that I really like. It has that earthy feel. So I'm going to make sure this is good and dry. I'm going to base coat these berries with country red. And the nice part is that it's going to stay a nice bright red over top of that white. And I only give it one coat. That's all you need. And you can see that, look how bright that is. It pops right off of that black very nicely. Look at that. So we get a nice bright berry, and it's important that we get a nice bright berry. So one coat of red over top of that white base. Then you're not competing with that black. And I love the bright red over top of black. Nice bright red. Easy peasy. And then using that shape maker, look at how nice and round our berries are. It's so much easier to paint a round berry when it starts out round. Hairlin Newell, I get my, you can get the Faux Squirrel riggers from the Brush Guys. They're based in Southern California. Their shipping is reasonable. They also give me a coupon code. So if you want to order brushes through the Brush Guys, you can use the coupon code Tracy M. Capital T, capital M. All one word. It'll give you an additional discount. And the sizes that I use the most often are a 0 and a number 2. Those are the ones that I use the most often. I find those the most versatile. So we have red berries. We have stuffed berry. Here we go. Yep, most of the gang on here will tell you the Brush Guys, they do provide great service. They always have a good selection. They do have, if they're sold out of something, you can give them your email address right on the website, and they'll notify you as soon as it comes back in stock. They're great that way. And they carry all of the brushes that I use. They carry my Fugly brushes, the Stencil brushes, the Water Lily, the Dynasty Faux Squirrel, and the Black Gold. They carry all of them. The IPC brushes, they carry those too. So we're going to start working on these leaves. We've got our berries and everything done. So we're going to start working on these. The highlight color that I'm using is Sour Apple. I love this green. And we're going to use a little bit of thermal green to really amp up the contrast so that we get a nice bright highlight. Yes. Yep, Debbie, I use warm white. Warm white tends to be my go-to color. I find that titanium white, although it's a nice brilliantly white, it does not cover as well as warm white does. Warm white covers much better. So I have my go-to white tends to be the warm white instead of the titanium. So we're going to use Sour Apple is our highlight color. We're going to use thermal green to punch up those highlights. Love that thermal green. And we're going to shade with a little bit of plantation pine, which is a nice dark transparent green, and it's in that same earthy tone that we use here. Most people gravitate towards a black green. I tend to want to get deeper by using layers of color as opposed to using strictly darkness. I like black green, but I would prefer using a transparent color so that I get a nicer depth. And so plantation pine is also my go-to when it comes to shading greens, particularly these earthy greens like antique green or avocado. I love those earthy colors. The brushes that I'm using today are Dynasty Faux Squirrel. I love these. I have been using the Water Lily a lot lately, and for good reason. They're an excellent brush. But today I'm going to be using my Faux Squirrel. These are still my go-to. These are my favorite brushes. If I could pet them, I would. I love these. So we're going to start by shading the base of each leaf where it joins the stem. So I make sure that my brush is well soaked so that it sucks up a little bit of water. So let it sit in room temperature water just for a couple of minutes so that water gets up in here. You want the water up in the ferrule. And then I dress my brush when I'm ready to paint with a little bit of that Joe Sonia. Now, you don't have to dunk the brush in. You can just touch the tip of the brush to the surface and it'll drink up what it needs. And then pick up a little of your plantation pine and then blend as if to float, because that's what you're going to be doing. And then I put my float right at the base of the leaf and up the side to that first point. Sort of a U-shaped float so that we're just deepening the bottom end of that leaf. Just where it joins that stem. Just one float. You'll find when you're using that Joe Sonia is that it lets the paint come off the brush smoother, that you get nicer, smoother floats. And the brush isn't dripping with it, it's just wet. The other thing it does is it extends the open time of the paint. Now, right in here, there's two leaves overlapping and there's a little one underneath. Just going to float that whole leaf with plantation pine. Because you want that leaf to be a little darker than the rest. So, a little bit of plantation pine back there. So, bottom of the leaf. The Jackie Summer. This is Joe Sonia's Fast Dry Glaze. It is my everything medium. I use it for thinning my paint. I use it as a float medium. Even for base coating, it just lets the paint move. Almost acts like a lubricant. But it also helps you create really nice transparent floats. Very easily. So the paint comes off that brush really easily. So we've got that first float in. Every single leaf on here has got a little shadow at the base. So now I'm going to repeat that by doing the center veins. So I'm going to put a float down the center vein of each leaf with that plantation pine. And it's going to start creating that curve that we want. Just like that. Now when you're floating, you will find that if you use just the tip of the brush to put that color down, you're going to end up with a line. That's why when I'm teaching, I try to tell my students, make sure that you get that whole chisel edge of that brush on the surface. So it's really important that you use a brush that is appropriate to the size of the space you're working in. So I look at the size of these leaves, and the width of them is about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit less. So I'm using a brush that is 3/8 of an inch. So it's a little less than 1/2 inch. So I can get that whole brush, the whole chisel edge of the brush in there without getting paint everywhere. I get paint only where I need it. So I'm going to darken this little leaf under here a little bit. There we go. So there's a 3/8 angle. This is a 1/2 inch angle. If I were to try and get in here, look at that. I've got a 1/2 inch. Brush is way too big. I'm not going to get a smooth application. However, I've got 3/8 of an inch. Now I put that whole chisel edge in there. It will fit within the width of that leaf. So I can lay some color in without creating too much of an issue. So everybody is off to OKC this week. That's exciting. Just not, unfortunately, couldn't do it this year. Just could not do it. I am working on submissions for Chattanooga. I'm excited about Chattanooga. And it actually, the dates worked for me this year. So I'm going to submit to Chattanooga. Does this piece come ornament size? It doesn't, but it could. Wouldn't that be cute to do it as a Christmas ornament? Speaking of Christmas ornaments, I have a new set called Farmhouse Holiday, and I've got a new set of ornaments coming up soon, so you guys are going to love those. Just gonna say. She's unconscious. She's been playing steadily since about 4 o'clock this morning. This is Airy, guys, sleeping. When she sleeps, it's like she's just unconscious. But she doesn't stop for hours on end. She's busy, busy, busy.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm ready for a nap.
We'll go. Poor baby. He looks like a bus hit him. I'm sorry.
It's my normal state.
No. So we've got our first shading in. I'm rather happy. So we've got our first shading in. All that does is establish the curve in the leaf so that we get nice dimension and shape. I know, poor Renee. So we're going to start highlighting these. Now the first highlight color I'm going to use is a little bit of sour apple. I love this color. Sour apple is a nice pop, and it's just a little vibrant, and it's going to give us a nice contrast. So we don't need to have that heavy, super dark shadow in order to do this. So on my highlight, I'm going to come into those points, down to the point, down the center vein. See how I've got the whole chisel edge of the brush on that surface? So now I've got a nice little highlight, and then I'm going to pull that highlight down onto the points, just like that. So we've got a nice little curve, and then we've got that great little pop of light. It's not going to look perfect yet. It's not going to look perfect, but that's okay. Perfect is boring. So up the center vein, out to that point, bring the color out to the other point, and out here. Yes, it's going to go over that center vein. That's okay, because we're going to deepen it. And this is one of the reasons I said that a 2 or 3 coat base coat is unnecessary. So highlight. We did discover that Aerie does not like thunderstorms at all. So that little highlight, that quick highlight, it's not a, oops. Oh boy, I got a little heavy-handed with that one. Blend that out a little. There we go. So that little highlight is just enough to give us a little contrast. And it helps define those points on the leaves a little bit. I ran out of paint. There we go. There. Now, I am a fast painter. I also paint very thin layers. Yeah, Renee he has not had a bad flare of TN in quite some time. And yeah, his started around 4 o'clock this morning, and it's still flaring. He's hurting. So he came down, he set up the cameras, but he's been fighting with the muscle spasms and whatnot since about 4 o'clock this morning. So he's not feeling the best between pain and lack of sleep, right? So anybody that has dealt with TN has a good idea what that means. So we're almost done with that first highlight. Almost. One of the reasons that I like this faux squirrel for this is exactly this reason. Look at this. So this is a 3/8 angle. Look at the chisel edge. It's like a razor blade. So it has a really sharp chisel edge. It makes it great for floating. And it's so easy. When you have a nice sharp brush with a really sharp chisel edge and a good point, it makes it easy to put these floats in accurately. So we have our first highlight in on all these leaves, a little bit there. And that first highlight is what makes all of those leaves curve, gives us nice soft floats. Oh, Tara, TN is trimensional neuralgia. Essentially, Renee has a small cyst inside his skull under his eye, and it presses on a nerve in his face from time to time, and it causes excruciating and unyielding pain. It's horrible. Unfortunately, the nickname for TN is the suicide disease because the pain can be that severe. So, although he takes medication to control it, it does not eliminate it. So, and because of the location of the mass that causes this, his is inoperable, so he can't have the cyst removed. He could, but it's extremely dangerous. So, yes. So, TN, trimensional, and I know I'm saying that wrong, neuralgia. It is nasty, and anybody that suffers with it, it's terrible. You know what, Lucy? Renee copes very, very well with it. very well. he, because he has medication that helps control it. But every once in a while he gets a flare. This is probably the first bad one he's had in a good 6 to 8 months. So he's done pretty good. Thank you, Kat. We appreciate that. He has done, it is a horrible thing to deal with, but he deals with it very, very well. He knows what his limits are. He knows how to manage it. So he's doing pretty well. Today, right now, he's just dealing with the aftermath of a flare, which causes headaches. It causes muscle spasms in his face, muscle twitches in his face. He'll get muscle cramping in his face, which is almost as bad, but yeah. Yep. Oh, yes, he's a tough nut. Don't underestimate him. He's done very well, but yeah, today he's just, unfortunately, just not feeling well enough to join us, and that's fine. Although he's missed. We're a little more low-key today. Yeah. So we're going to add our next highlight, which is a little bit of that neon green. It's called a thermal green. Now, I love these. I love them for amping up highlights. If you really want colors to pop, these things are fantastic. And I love this thermal green for this reason. Is that although it doesn't become this garish color, I really like that really vibrant pop that it gives, especially to holly. So I'm going to float right over our first float with that neon green. And right away, look at the difference. So we get a really nice bright green. And it is going to look a little muddy for a bit. Just for a little bit. And then it's not. It's going to look really vibrant. So one of the reasons that I put that first color down is that the neons need something with a little opacity, a little brightness to work really well. So if I were going to take, if I want my reds to pop, oddly enough, I don't go to neon red. I go to either the pink or I go to the orange, either one, depending on the tone I want to create. And in this particular case, I want nice, vibrant color, not necessarily in your face color, if you know what I mean. So look at that. That's a good idea, Kathy. Painted on the flip side of the violet teacup. It's an easy one to reverse. Just flip it. Adobe will let you do that. If you open up the PDF in Adobe, it'll let you flip the image. So I'm just going to continue, put that little bit of neon green, and I remember to take it out to the points. That I can talk while I paint. I'm used to it. I'm used to it. That's all there is. It's just practice, I think. So look at how much they pop off of all of that black and white. I love this. Love, love, love. So pretty. So I've had entirely too many computer issues the last week between ridiculously slow internet access, and email has just been a nightmare. But I don't know what the problem was. And then we had power outages this week too. So it was just, we had one last night, which wasn't too bad, but then all the computers were shut down. It took me almost an hour and a half to get them all back up today. So it's just been one of those weeks. One problem after another. So it is what it is. Soldier on. So I've got, look at how bright that green is now. Just pops off of there. Love this green. Tara, you should, if I'm usually in the studio by myself for most of the day. I know the guys they will work on packaging and stuff, whatnot upstairs. They don't do it in the studio, but yeah, I'll have whole conversations with myself down here. Just, I don't answer, but just, wonder sometimes how dense one person can be. Usually that conversation is strictly with myself. Oh my goodness, Lucy, no internet. Lucy went Italian. Good for you. When it comes to customer service, if I have to deal with tech over the net, things get ugly quickly. I have no patience. And even less when they're condescending. Oleander. Did I miss something? If you made it for Halloween, what would you use instead of holly? Oh, oleander would be cute. I have a Halloween one coming up. Just saying. I've been having a little bit of fun. I do like doing the teacups. They're fun to surface. So I'm going to shade these berries a little bit. I'm going to shade them with a little bit of country red, and I'm going to mix a little touch of lamp black with it. I just want to make a very dark red. That's all. So I'm going to put a little float of that lamp black and country red mix on the bottom of the berry, like so. Just a little. Just like that. So I've got a little shadow on the bottom of each berry. A St. Patty's Day teacup. A little shamrock on the side. One of the things that I've been having fun with is when we're packing up these teacup sets, we've been putting a little tea bag in with them. Some of my favorite herbal teas, and I try to make them so that they match up with whatever the style of the cup is. So for the Christmas ones, there's like peppermint tea, and we've got pomegranate tea, and I don't know, I just think it's a fun little thing to tuck in. It just works. So now that I've got all of the highlighting in, we're going to do one last shading with the plantation pine on these leaves, and this is where they get that sharp, detailed look. It cleans them up so nicely. So I'm going to repeat what I did the first time. Remember? Shade at the base of the leaf, like so. So we're going to get that nice dark shadow at the base. And I'm going to do that with all the leaves. Where they join the stem, right there. Love that layer of shading goes in. It just amps up the shape and defines things nicely, cleans things up nicely. So I do the base of the leaf first. There is a method to my madness. I'm going to come down here and do this one, like so. And then once you have all of those done, I'm going to dry them real quick, and then we're going to do one last shading down the center vein, and it's going to give us a really nice finish to these leaves. So one last float down the center vein, and the first thing you're going to notice is that it cleans up and sharpens that leaf. So you don't get those little irregularities. It redefines that center vein, makes them look nice and clean. Gives the leaves that nice sharp look. Holly leaves should have that nice sharp, almost waxy, polished look to them. When you see them in the wild, they have this really nice linear definition. Karen, I like floating too, especially when you do it in layers. It gives you a ton of control. And you don't have to get that first float perfect. All the first float does is establish where those lines are. And look at that. So we've got nice, crisp, sharp leaves. This float here, I'm going to deepen that. Nice, sharp holly. So I'm going to add some stems and some tendrils to this. Now we need a little more opacity. So I'm going to add just a smidge of warm white to our sour apple. Just a smidge. We don't need a ton of it. All it's going to do is just make this green a little bit lighter, just a little, and it'll make it a little more opaque. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of that neon green with it. Just a little. I'm going to thin it out so that it'll line nicely. And I'm going to start my stems on the leaf. Right on that center vein at the base of the highlight. There we go. I like that little bit of white in it. It just gives it just enough opacity. Just enough. You don't need to have a ton of it. And that's what you use to do those little vines and tendrils. Whoops, a daisy. So we have little vines, little tendrils. And then you can take that same mixture and we're going to add just a very thin, sharp edge to these leaves. I do this with a lot of things, just the soft, fine line. It can be right on the edge of the leaf, or it can go off, or it can be on. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it is a very fine line, so don't overdo. It doesn't have to be a strong outline. Definitely doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, it's more interesting if it's not. And it is a soft outline. When I say fine, it's not a hard edge. I don't like hard edges. So it just gives each of our leaves a little soft definition, a little delicate, which is one of the reasons I like the finer line. It keeps those leaves looking sharp and pointed. And there we go. going to add, now when you get a leaf that has, you know, that stem kind of disappears into the white at times, feel free to grab a little bit of that thinned plantation pine to connect them. It won't hurt. So anytime that lines are perhaps looking a little wanting, don't be afraid to darken them with a little plantation pine. So now we've got highlights and everything in. Now a lot of what we're looking at in here is just graphite lines that will need to be cleaned up a little bit, which is easy. Here we go. And I prefer the loose, that loose feel. Just gives nice softness and definition to it. So we don't have a ton of hard lines everywhere. Yes, Bonnie, the brush guys do have the micron brushes. And this one, the one I'm working with, is a 10-aught extra long detail liner. And I usually use this one or the 15-aught. Those are the two that I use the most. So, and my girl Karen, hey sweetie. So, extra long 10-aught detail liner, Dynasty Micron. So I use that one, and I also use, let's see if I can find mine here, is this one. This is another one that I use quite frequently. This is the Zero Liner. It's essentially a script. And I will use this one from time to time as well. But generally, the 10-aught extra long detail liner is my go-to. So the only thing we have left to do with these berries is to add a little highlight in there. And I'm going to highlight mine with a little float of warm white. And I'm going to heavily thin this warm white. You don't need a ton of it. I'm going to put on the top part of the berry just a soft float of warm white, heavily thinned. You don't want this opaque. And I come in from the edge just a scooch, just a little. And I'll explain why in just a sec. So in order to make things look more like a sphere, if you come in just slightly from the edge, I don't know if this shows up on camera or not, but start your float in, just a little bit in from the edge. It will help give the berry a bit more of a spherical shape. So I've done that with a little bit of warm white, but let me show you. You can use either of these, either one of these to highlight those berries, and it's going to work. The pink, I don't think this one calls for pink, so I'm going to use a little bit of the neon orange. And I'm going to pop just a thin little highlight over top of that white. And it's going to give our berries a nice little punch. A little bit of heat. And it's not going to look so see that nice little glow that we get? That's all it is. It's just a soft little glow over top of that white. So now we've got nice, bright, vibrant berries. And then to finish those berries, all you need is a little bit of warm white. You can do this with a stylus or with a fine brush. I prefer to do it with a brush because I like a smaller dot. Right at the upper left, right on that highlight, that edge, I'm going to put a little dot of warm white. And there. You get that really nice spherical look. The berries don't look so flat. So you get a spherical look from your berries. Now, in the line drawing, we have a little vine that goes along the bottom of the teacup. You could paint it black if you wanted to and just put snowflakes along there. You can do whatever your heart desires. I just wanted to take the time to show you how to do a really quick little border. And I'm going to do this with a number 2 round, which is small round, and a little bit of lush green. And this is how I do this. I'm going to make a little teardrop. And essentially, I'm just going to press the brush so that I get an egg shape. You could make it more teardrop shaped if you wanted to. You could make it more like a comma stroke if you wanted to, but the egg shape works really well. And you're going to make it like little footprints, like so. Of course, I had to pick up the one round brush that does not come to a point anymore. So, see what I mean? Does not come to a point. There we go. So it's just essentially a little footprint, staggered. Get on there. So they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect little teardrops, but just little leaves, like so. So I've got a little chain of those little teardrops. And I'm going to dry this real quick. As I said, they don't have to be perfect. And this is just a really fast way to do a vine. So everyone always worries, how am I going to get these just perfect? So I'm going to take a little bit of thinned plantation pine on my 10-aught extra long detail liner, and then I'm going to run a thin line back and forth between all of these little teardrops, like so. Again, does not have to be perfect. Just like that. So let me get that up close so you can see it. So it's just bobbing back and forth between each of those little leaves. Just a squiggly line. And then you're going to connect them. So you're going to take your liner and a little plantation pine, and you're just going to connect that little leaf to that vine that you just put down the middle. So it can connect directly to it, or it can wrap around that vine. That's up to you. If it doesn't look like it's going to connect easily, then just wrap it around and make it connect someplace else. It's not a big deal. Having them connect in a different location is fine. It's actually really simple to do. So what you end up with is this. So now we've got a little chain of leaves that runs across the bottom of the saucer. Super simple, right? And they all connect to that vine. No biggie. And then you have to have berries. If you're going to have little holly leaves, you need bigger ones. Kathy, never draw a line with a one dip of paint. That's because I use that Joe Sonia's. It lets the paint come smoothly off. It just helps it flow off the brush. So I'm going to use, I've got my Zero Rigger. I'm going to use the end of the handle. And I'm going to dip it into that country red. And I'm going to put a berry alternating back and forth like so. Just a dot. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Doesn't have to be perfect. I just like to alternate my dots. You can decide how close together you want them or how far apart. Or what color. They don't have to be red. They can be any color you want. So this works like for summer designs, spring designs. You can create all kinds of fun things. Just simple little vines are great ways to detail something as simple as this. So it's not a big deal. So make sure that that little vine is well dry, because those berries, you will smudge them. I will anyway. It's a super simple way to create a really pretty and very delicate little leafy vine. You don't have to worry about the details. You don't have to worry. If you don't want to float and highlight this, you don't have to. If you want to add a little shading to it, go, by all means, go ahead. But you really don't have to. Now, if you want bigger leaves, by all means, you can simply make them a little bit bigger. Use the line drawing that's in there. I did put a decent line drawing in there. But if you want to do a freehand one, which a lot of the time I do, just because I just like it. I think it's a pretty way to detail things. This is just a super simple way of doing it. So I'm going to take a little bit of warm white, and I'm going to give each of the berries just a little dot of white as a highlight. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything remotely like it. This is just fun and simple. Look at that. Simple little detail. The only thing when you're doing something like this is that as long as it reflects what's in the main design, you're good to go. So all I did was I just chose the colors that are up here and I used them down here. And I just simplified it. So it's meant to replicate this, but it's not a perfect replication. So now you can take your gel pen and add more detail to this if you want. And I generally do. I add scribbles and whatnot. So, because that's just me. So I'm going to make sure that that's good and dry before I do this next step, because I will smear it, because that's just how I do things. So we need to highlight this cup and then shade this saucer so that we get lots of dimension. I'm going to switch over to my 1/2 inch angled shader. I'm going to let that soak in some water here for a second, just so that it gets a good drink. It needs some water in it in order to work well. I'm going to make sure I've got a good dose of Joe Sonia's in my brush. And I'm going to use some heavily thinned warm white. And we're going to put a little highlight right here on the teacup, just in from the edge a little bit. It just needs a little highlight there. And I'm going to do the same thing to the edge of the teacup handle. Not a super bright highlight, doesn't need to be. I'm going to pick up a little more. Just a little highlight on the handle, and then on the inside here on this edge, right there, gives us a nice, defines that handle. And then to add our highlight, out comes our liner again. And this does not have to be a perfect highlight. We're just going to give it a little light impact point in from the edge, just slightly. It's just a stroke of white. And then we have a nice shiny handle. So it's not a really elaborate highlight, it's just a little stroke. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. On the edge, see where I came in just a bit from the edge? I'll do the same thing here. Whoops. There. So we've got a nice little highlight. So we need to shade this saucer, and we're going to shade this cup. Before I use my angles, I usually let them sit for a couple of minutes. You don't want to sit them there too long, but a couple of minutes just to let them drink up a little bit of water. So 2-3 minutes at the most. That's all you really need. Just when you're starting to paint something, especially acrylics, if you don't soak that brush beforehand, it drinks up the paint, and then so the paint gets up underneath the ferrule. So if you've got water up under there while you're painting, the paint doesn't get up there. So your brushes will last a lot longer. Also makes them a lot easier to clean. So I want to make sure this is good and dry before I do this next step. I'm going to shade in and around my leaves and shape this cup. But I need to get all that graphite off first. Oh, Nancy, Renee's not feeling well today. He's having a bit of a flare of TN, so he's taking the day off today. He keeps popping down, though, to make sure everything's going smoothly, but he's not feeling well. So I'm going to use my black eraser, and I'm going to clean up all those graphite lines. I detest graphite lines. They just have a tendency to make everything look a little messy. You know? Even when you know they're not messy, that your painting is nice and clean, but you don't get rid of that graphite. Things just never look as smooth and as pretty as they should. But we're almost there, and this comes off. That's one of the reasons I love these black erasers. It takes off the graphite without smearing everything, which is huge. But it also does not polish that black paint. There's nothing worse than trying to clean something up only to discover that you've got polished marks or shiny spots, and it makes a mess. So, get rid of all of our graphite lines. Now we're going to shade. This is the part that gives this cup a little more dimension and a little more shape. But we have to put on a pretty border on this. And I'm trying these out for the first time. I've been kind of testing them for the last few days. I got these ones from Amazon. They're called Let's Resin Chrome Markers. They were actually very reasonably priced. There was 3 of them in the set, and I think I paid $23 for 3 of them. There's a gold, a silver, and what's the other one? Copper. So I got 3 of these for like $23, which, as far as I'm concerned, it makes them less than $10 a pen, which is almost unheard of. But I've been testing them because I use the Deco Color all the time, but they have been difficult to get recently. So I decided to try my luck with this one, and I have not been disappointed, I'm happy to tell you. So all I did was I just edged my cup with this gold paint pen, like so. So it is a highly reflective gold, I have to tell you. They call it a chrome pen for a good reason. It actually looks like gold foil when it dries. It's quite nice. The other thing, it's virtually odorless, which impressed me because most of them are horrendous. I always liked the Deco Color one because it wasn't as bad. But I really have to say, certain elements of this have really impressed me, and one of them is that very low odor. And the other thing that's impressed me is look at that finish. Look at how brilliant that is. Why would a black eraser not do that? I'm not entirely sure why. It may have something to do with what they make the erasers out of. I use 2 different ones. Not all of them are the same, I will tell you that. I use this one. This is a Tombow Mono, black eraser. This is a plastic eraser. It has a really nice texture, but it does not polish any black paint or surface paint. It doesn't smear things. And the other one I use is this. It's a Factus Black. And this is another one that does not smear graphite, and it also does not polish the any black paint or the surface paint. I'm not sure why it does that. All I know is that it does. So if you're looking for a recommendation, either one of these I'm extremely happy with as far as removing color off of especially dark backgrounds. So coming back to this marker, what impresses me is that sheen. It has a beautiful finish, virtually no odor. You can pass it right under your nose. It's virtually odorless. Yeah, it's called the Let's Resin Chrome Marker, and I found these on Amazon. It's quite an impressive pen. So, so that's what I edged mine with. The other nice thing is they do dry fairly quickly, so I just treat it. It is an oil base, I believe, although it doesn't smell like one. I will say that. Yes, Bonnie, I have to agree with you. I'm a big fan of the plastic erasers. I love Tombows. I use the Tombow mono erasers all the time. So now we're going to start shading. I've got my border on. I'm going to grab my 1/2 inch angled shader and get a little Joe Sonia's in there. And the color I'm going to use, I know you already know the answer to this. The color I'm going to use is a little bit of asphaltum. You know what? An elegant teacup should have a gold trim. That's just my feeling on that subject. Oh, Kathy, good for you. So, we're going to float with some heavily thinned asphaltum. You don't want this full strength because it's a strong color. So the first thing we're going to do is define our saucer. So I'm going to put a float of asphaltum all along the bottom here where it separates the teacup from the saucer. And I'm going to grab my mop brush and I'm going to soften that. So that defines my saucer. And then I'm going to float the ends of my saucer the same way. A little bit of asphaltum on both ends. And I am walking that float out a little bit. And I'm going to dry this and then I'll do it again. Oh, the resin that I used for the butterflies. Before we finish up for today, I'll grab it off my desk and quickly show everybody. It's quite a good one. I also found it on Amazon and I have a link for you. I'll post the link on my Facebook page. So I've got a nice little shadow on either end of my teacup. And then I'm just going to deepen that a little bit on either end. Just a little. It just gives the teacup a little roundness. That's all. Doesn't have to be a perfect float. So I'm going to let that dry, but we're going to take the asphaltum up underneath that gold border up here. Remember that little bit that we did? And we're going to float right across the black onto the white, right up underneath that rim, like so. Do I have a dragonfly stencil? I used to. I don't have any right now. But yes, I love dragonflies. So yeah, I have a dragonfly stencil. I just don't have any in right now. So, little float at the bottom of that as well. And we're going to let it dry. Walking out, how do I avoid lines? I avoid lines because I walk it out while it's still wet. A lot of the time if you try to walk it out and you get bars. So try to do it in increments as quickly as you can. So put the first float down, second float down, third float down, and then go back over them. And I do it in layers. I just found that it's easier for me to get those floats softer. And if you find you're getting bars, hello, great tool to have. Use that mop brush. Some people call it cheating. I call it clever thinking. Will I be getting any more of the dragonflies? Yes. Yes, I will. It's like anything else. Certain things do well at certain times of the year. So we've got our shading in here and along the bottom. So now we're going to put little floats under the leaves, just like that. Mainly where there's white. I just don't see the point in putting out too much on the black, but soften it with your mop brush underneath the berries, underneath the leaves. It's just to give those leaves and berries a little elevation, just lifts them up a little. So they don't have to be perfect, meticulous floats. They're just to change the color underneath them a little bit. Like so. Simple. Don't overthink it. Just put a little color in. Comme ça. So that instantly gives those flowers a little bit of a lift. Oh, the stencil cleaning post I put up the other day. That's where you saw it. I was trying to, like, where? There. So I'm going to take a little of Schwaltem, a little shadow down the outside edge. And the same on this side, a little bit. Doesn't have to be much. Soften it with I do like my mop brush. And then you can deepen things if you feel they need deepening. If you need to darken them a little. I kind of like the darker shadows. It just gives this a little more body. So, little float of Schwaltem. And then deepen this. Just along that line. And then as for the saucer, we need to give this a little bit of a highlight. Just a little. I'm going to pull a little bit of warm white. And see this space? So we've come about 1/3, that's where our shadow is. There's a little space right along there where we need to just soften it a little. So I'm just putting a light float of warm white. And yes, I'm letting it go right over the vine. Because just softening it. It's not a solid float. It's just a diffused float. And it just softens the vine a little, but at the same time, it also gives us a nice division between the two. So we've got a shadow on that side, and by putting that little highlight in there, it just lifts it. So the only thing that I have left to do to this is our snowflakes. And I have snowflakes galore. So you bought all the colors that go with the butterflies? You're going to be buying a lot of paint if that's the case, because I'm up to 72 and I just ordered another pile of butterflies. So one of the things that painters have such a hard time with is we have a hard time finding and knowing which colors to shade which colors with. And I'm of the opinion that no matter what the color is, there is never just one color that you can shade it with. I firmly believe that. Because you can change the look of a color by changing the color you shade it with. And which is the whole point behind these butterflies, is to give you plenty of variety. It's a lot of fun to sit down with a whole, 150 butterflies and then base coat them with every color that you have in your paint rack. And then go through your whole paint rack and find the various shading colors that are going to work with it. And that's essentially what I've done. So I have 3 little snowflakes. We have these little bags. There's 6 pieces in them. So we have 3 1-inch snowflakes, and then we have 3 half-inch snowflakes. I'm obsessed with snowflakes. Seriously. I have a bunch of Christmas designs. I don't know why I got on this Christmas kick way back in April, and I have had a stack of line drawings sitting on my desk ever since. And I'm finally getting around to painting some of them. So, and then of course Deb sends me like interesting things like teacups, and then I have to paint them. Is my Joe Sonia medium straight or thinned with water? It is straight, right out of the bottle. So I've got a little bit of warm white. Now you can paint these with a paint dauber if you want to, but you know what? You can do it with just a paintbrush. We're only going to use a little bit, very little bit of warm white. You don't need a ton of paint for this part. It will make your life simpler. So a little bit of warm white. And I just tickle the top of it. I don't want to put gobs of paint on it, so it's just tickle the top of the snowflake with a little bit of warm white. That way, they're going to dry real quick. You know what, Peg, I'm with you. I love Christmas designs. Christmas is my favorite holiday, so every once in a while, I just get on this thing where I gotta paint Christmas. Love painting Christmas. It just makes me happy. And I'm having way too much fun with the Christmas thing. Part of the problem is I've been asked to paint ornaments for a couple of magazines. So I sent off my ornaments to Painting World magazine. So those are already gone, and or I've sent off the pattern for them. Janet, you have too many snowflakes? Oh, I think I might have you beat. I have several hundred right now. And so I'm working on a set of Christmas ornaments for Pixelated Palette. That's the other one. So, yeah, I have a few things on the go. And plus I'm also working on fall because, fall's my favorite time of year. So I have been like kind of losing my mind getting stuff ready for fall. So now, if you're going to do Christmas, you have to have glitter. It's a rule. Right? Tell me I'm not wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. So I love this. This is Galaxy Clear, Duraclear Galaxy Varnish. This stuff is like, oh my God. I love this stuff. You can tell this bottle, it's where August, this bottle's half empty. I love this stuff. This is just so much fun to play with. So I'm going to use a little bit of this. I'm also going to use it to finish my cookie when we're done. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this Galaxy Varnish. It's great stuff because it already has like nice flakes and whatnot mixed right in it. And you can just dab a little bit onto your snowflakes. It dries crystal clear. And then it has all this fun stuff in it. You can use galaxy glitter. You could use just, varnish and sprinkle it with glamour dust if you want to. Oh, the ones that are coming up for Painting World, I'm in love with. They're probably my favorite ornaments ever. They're just super cute. And I'll give you guys a peek. Just a peek, but you can't tell anybody. This, Nancy, it's similar to opal dust, yes. Like Joe Sonia's, yeah, it's very similar. I love this stuff because it is actually a varnish, so it dries nice and hard. So I've got a little bit of that Duraclear Galaxy varnish. I'm going to dry these because knowing me, I will get it everywhere. And I'm going to let those sit there for a second. I'm going to grab my favorite fugly brush. And we're going to thin out a little bit of warm white. This is my fugly brush. I got a little bit of warm white. I'm going to thin that out. And I'm going to just lightly spatter this. I don't want a ton of it on there, but I just like spatter. I think you guys know that now. I like spatter. Oh, Donna, once you start playing with Galaxy Varnish, you're done. Everything will get Galaxy Varnished, I promise you. Nothing will be sacred. I just love the look of it. It's got so many different shapes and sizes of glitter in it. It's just super pretty. So, I've got a little spatter on there. I'm going to get my favorite glue. This is Aleene's Clear Tacky. I love Aleene's glue. And although it's very thick, but it is the best thing since cookies. So I'm going to put just a little bit on there. And you can decide where you're going to place them. Just remember, you have a cookie going in here. So, little bit of glue. Now, I go with 3. I tend to work with that, the idea of rule of 3, because that just works. And I like things to overlap a little bit, so it's okay if it goes over top of the holly. And then we have our little stand. It's essentially 2 pieces of the same type of MDF. One has a groove cut into it, and one does not. And you glue them together. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick. If I can get my thingy. I got 1,000,001 little tricks for things. So essentially, I put glue on the back side of each of these pieces and I stuck them together. I made sure that they were well lined up. And then while the glue was wet, I clamped it on either end with one of these. And that just keeps everything tightly clamped together. And then I put these in place, like so. And then you can lay it down like that. And it just keeps everything nice and tight together, and it keeps it aligned so that you're not having to deal with what I dealt with the other day. Is something that slid out of place. So because I was too lazy and didn't think of putting the clamps on. So a clamp like that, leave it for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then your stand should be ready. So for this, all you have to do is just run a little bit of glue. You don't need a ton of it. Just a little right along the groove. And then you take your cup and drop it into the slot. Now, before you set it aside to dry completely, you're going to take a piece of damp paper towel or a soft cloth, and wipe along the edge of your stand right in there so that you take off any excess glue so that it's not oozing out. You're not going to have dollops of it. And then to set it aside to dry, you're going to set it on the table edge so that this hangs down. You don't want it laying on the edge like this because it will tip. You don't want it to. So I lay it on the edge of the table like this. So it's supported by the tabletop, but this is sticking out over the edge. So it's nothing is interfering with it, and it lets it dry nice and solid. And then while this is drying, the other thing it does is it prevents your snowflakes from sliding, which is something else I did the other day, by the way. Tells you. So I'm going to set this teacup aside, let it dry. Let all of the glue dry so nothing, and we're going to paint a cookie. Now, the base coat for this one is 1 coat of raw sienna. This is just, I love this color for gingerbread. I just think it's a great color for gingerbread. So 1 coat raw sienna is our base color for this. And we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum and our 1/2 inch angled shader. This little guy actually works up fairly quickly. So a little bit of asphaltum, and we're going to shade our cookie. So on the right side of the foot, like so, I'm going to put a nice float of asphaltum. And then on this side, like so, and on that side of his head. We're going to make this cookie look nice and toasty. That's what we're going to do. So we have a shadow all on the right side of this cookie. Now he has icing. I'm going to grab a pencil. We're just going to quickly put in a line for the icing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a squiggly line. Here. See, we get a nice toasty looking cookie. So little squiggly line for the frosting on the feet. Like so. And I'm going to switch to my 3/8, slightly smaller angled brush. And we're going to put a shadow on the right side of that icing, that line that we did for the icing. Just like that. And the same on this side. And then to the right and underneath this one, like so. So it's just a single float of asphaltum right up against that line. And then I'm going to take a little bit of warm white, and I'm going to heavily thin it. I'm going to lots of that medium in my brush. I don't want this to be a really bright highlight. And someone asked me the other day why I always seem to shade or highlight so many different colors just with a little bit of warm white, but I thin it. Most of the time it means bringing in yet another color into a paint line. Whenever you're painting something, especially for a pattern, it's always a good idea to sort of think about who's going to be painting it in the end. If you add another color, then it has to be used elsewhere. for me, I use warm white a lot. I use it in base colors. I use it in highlighting in a variety of areas. It's just, it works for what I'm doing. So if I need a tan and white won't do, then I can always mix a little warm white with whatever my base color is to get a lighter value. So I don't need to add yet another color to the paint line. So especially for something that is such a small amount is used, I just won't add a beige or a tan to this because it's unnecessary. So I'm just putting a little highlight, nothing major, but I made a mistake here, so I got to get rid of that. I whoopsied. My float was a little too strong. I'm going to pick up a little more warm white. There we go. Oh, no. There we go. That's better. Okay. I just got a little heavy-handed with the white. I'm loving the conversation in the YouTube channel. They're talking about teachers and that they're heroes. And I can't disagree with that at all. So, little float. I kind of want this cookie to look a little sugary, if that's the term. So, there we go. Now I've got it. I just couldn't get there from here. There we go. Okay, so I have a shading on one side. I have a little bit of light on this side. I'll let this dry. And I'm going to get my rigger out again. I'm using my 0. And some thinned warm white. We're going to make it kind of inky, but still thick enough that it maintains its opacity. So remember the little squiggly line that we put in? We're going to paint right on that line with some thinned warm white. So that's our line of icing. I just like the simple icing on my cookie. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Rory. There are so many little things that you can do to make painting a little simpler, less traumatic, less difficult, and a bit more successful. But you don't know these things until somebody tells you, or you figure it out on your own. And it takes time. So we have icing. Our cookie is starting to take on a little bit of dimension, which we kind of like. That little soft highlight there makes a big difference. And then the toasty little bits of color on the other side. That's always fun. So I'm going to make this cookie look a little more frosted, more like he's sugar coated. You know, they get crusted with a little bit of sugar. So we're going to show you a real quick trick for doing that, and it involves a small stencil brush. I'm going to use, if I can find my small stencil brush. I have a small one here somewhere. Ouch. Where are you? There you are. I was looking for one of these. This is a 1/4 inch stencil brush. I like these. So, little 1/4 inch. I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white on my stencil brush. I'm going to load it as if I'm going to stencil. So the brush is going to be almost dry. And then we're going to come to the edge of our cookie and we're going to do this. So I'm going to just catch the edge of the cookie with the stencil brush. I'm going to do that all along that highlighted side of the cookie. Just like that. And so you get this great sugary appearance on the highlight side. And you can pull it in. It doesn't hurt it. You can pull it in as far as you want. But I like how it just sort of accentuates and gives you a nice, clean, detailed edge. And it just makes for a fun looking cookie. So now we have a nice frosted looking. Vicki, what is next week's class? We're doing another Christmas teacup with this little guy. I'm kind of obsessed with the cookies. But yes, this is the one we're doing next Saturday. It's another fun one. Teacups, we're going to do some peppermints. I have a really fun way to paint these peppermints. This one is completely outside of my normal color palette. I had entirely too much fun with this one. I don't ordinarily do a lot of pink. I'm using a color called Wild Berry for doing the saucer and for doing the mints. And I have a fun little technique for that to get them so that they kind of look a little bit like they're floating back there. And then I'm going to show you a fun technique for painting these stripes. And then for using 3 different shades of green. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. So this one is just fun. And I think this one is cute. This one's a bit more elegant. This one is cute. I think everybody needs some fun, playful colors. But yes, that's what we're doing next Saturday is that one. And the pattern for that will be up tomorrow morning. So we have a cookie. I need my shape maker because I'm going to show you how I use a shape maker when I'm designing things. So this little guy's going to have eyeballs and he needs buttons. So I'm going to choose which size of button and which size of eyeball he needs. The star is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to be using, I think this one here. I think that's the size I want. I don't want him to have googly eyes, so I'm just going to use my pencil to position the eye. And I've got about 1/4 inch from the edge to the edge of the eyeball. So now I know that 1/4 inch in is about the right distance. And I do the same thing on the other side. And I want about 1/4 inch between them. So, ta-da! We have eyeballs. See? Eyeballs. And I want his buttons to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to come down here to this size. And I'm aiming so that it fits in between those eyeballs. And aims, well, I hate to say it, but down at his crotch. So that it's about centered. So if I look from here to here to here and it's roughly in a straight line, it's all good. So I'm going to use this one to make a button. And I'm going to give it about 1/4 inch space, maybe a little bit less. I'll put another button in. And I'll do the same thing with the last button. The shape makers are just really handy for designing, but instead of tracing on all of those details onto some, especially something small like this, shape maker, it's just handier. So we're going to base coat the eyeballs and the buttons with lamp black, unless of course you want a zombie cookie and then you can paint the eyeballs white. And if you've been here before, you know what a zombie cookie is. And if you haven't been, somebody will fill you in. So I'm using a little bit of thinned lamp black. I'm going to put a little bit of Joe Sonia's in it. Just a drop to get it to move. And I'm going to base coat these eyeballs with lamp black. And it is much easier to get a nice round eyeball when you start out with a nice round eyeball. Just makes your life so much simpler. I think by playing with other colors, I have a tendency to do it even when I'm painting, to deviate and play with other colors. But doing the butterflies has been my objective with doing the butterflies, was to give people options, to give you guys options on what colors you can shade with and what colors you can use together. Because I think a lot of the time we just don't know, and there's, quite honestly, there's no book out there, no manual out there on how to select them. So I thought it would be fun to sit down, paint a few butterflies with the various color selections, and if it's helpful, that's great. And like I said, if you're enjoying them and you're finding them helpful, throw me a little heart or a comment or a question or whatever in the comment section. We'd appreciate it. And I'll be honest with you, it boosts our engagement and it helps us a great deal. It's one thing to like something, but what really boosts our engagement for us, especially on social media, is you guys saying what's on your mind, letting us know, making comments. Makes a big difference to us. Would I show you the bottle? Okay, if I still have one. I generally pour my Joe Sonias into a smaller container on my table. I have to see if I have a bottle here. It's matte varnish. I don't know if I still have a bottle. I do not. I'll show you another bottle. It's close. It's going to look something like this. This is in the small bottle, but the big bottles has this. The only thing that's different is it says Fast Dry Glaze. So it's a green label. And no, flow medium is not the same thing. The Fast Dry Glaze is very liquidy. Flow medium is a little thicker. So we have eyeballs. I'm going to dry this real quick, and then I'm going to remove the graphite lines, because I don't like graphite lines. So out comes my black eraser. I'm going to remove my graphite. Oh, better already. Now, I have my little tiny stencil brush. I want to show you something. I'm going to take a little bit of my country red. Just a little bit. Tiny bit. I'm going to load up my stencil brush. I'm going to blot it a little. And then I'm just going to give him a couple of rosy cheeks. Just like that. Right below those eyeballs. Just going to give him a little rosy cheek. Like so. And then I'm going to shade on the right side of his eyeballs with a little bit of asphaltum. Just a little float. I'm going to start at the top of the eyeball, come around to the bottom. Top of the eyeball, come around to the bottom. So it's a little C-shaped float. Doesn't have to be much. Just a little C-shaped float to the right. And I'm going to do the same thing to the buttons. Now, what does that do for it? What it does, it implies that it's casting a little bit of a shadow, but it also implies that it's just slightly elevated, so that it's slightly above the surface of the cookie. And it just gives him a little extra dimension. Similar to that little float around the icing. It just raises the icing slightly. So the next step, take a little Jo Sonja's and a little bit of warm white. Just a tiny bit. And we're going to blend that out quite nicely. Don't want it full strength, but I think I might have. And we're going to put just a weak float, like a half circle, in from the edge, just slightly, right on the eyeball. And do the same thing to each of the buttons. I think I've got a little too much white, so I'm blotting it with my finger. There we go. So that little float's going to give us a little more elevation. And then we're going to add a highlight to each of those things, both the buttons and the eyeballs. Upper left, just in from the edge of that float. Just in. Little bit. And do the same on the buttons going down. No, my cookies never have a mouth. Well, the pink star does, but the gingerbread doesn't. The Stencil Pro brushes, Bet. I have one in every size because the size I use depends on the opening in the stencil and on the size of the surface I use. So I have one in every size. Yes, Bob does look good enough to eat, doesn't he? So I'm going to dry him really well because we're going to do one last step. I'm going to make him look a little more frosted. We're going to spatter him a little bit with some warm white. Just a little. I wanted him to have a nice little rosy cheek, so a little bit of that country red. So I'm going to spatter my cookie just a little bit. You know, so he's sprinkled with sugar. I'm going to dry him really well. So he needs to be really dry for this next step, so I don't want to smear anything. So we're going to put a coat of this Galaxy varnish on our cookie because, you know, Christmas cookies need glitter. Right? And I'm going to brush a coat of that Galaxy varnish over top of my cookie. And I put way too much on there. I'm going to take a little bit off because I got a little carried away. It's glitter. Go figure. I do love this stuff. It's just so yummy. And it seals nicely and it's a really durable varnish. So sort of kills two birds with one stone. The other one I really like is the Starlight varnish, and that one has a very fine glitter in it that's similar to the Glamour Dust. So he's going to look a little spattered for a minute. I'm going to clean off a couple of little gobs here and there. Now, the fun part is that I can force this without any problems, and it does dry very quickly. And you can already see the glitter because the varnish is... I love this because it's kind of got a holographic thing. You know, one way you look at it, it's going to be blue, and the next way you turn it, it's going to be green. And I will show you this. This is Galaxy Duraclear Galaxy Varnish. And he's almost dry. I love this stuff. I'll show you why in just a sec. It's the best thing. So, mine is dry. So I'm going to bring him up to the camera so that you can see that. Hopefully you guys can see it. I love the sparkle in this stuff. It's not over the top. It's a nice smooth glitter. It doesn't feel textured or anything, but it has that great sparkle. It's just wonderful stuff. And it's great for holiday themed pieces. So you're going to love this. I also like the sheen. It's not a super shiny varnish. It has like a low satin to a matte finish. So that glitter is everything. So our cup has been sitting over there drying. And now I have my cookie. So I'm going to show you how I attach this. So I'm using just a little piece of scrap wood. These were just little bits that were all cut up. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of this. Oh my goodness. This stuff is so thick. There we go. So it doesn't need much, just a little dab will do ya. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of that, and I'm going to put this about the middle, just below his head. Like so. Yeah, Peg, I love glitter. I don't like it when it's crusted with glitter. That's a bit too much. I like things just to be subtle. You know, I prefer the subtle stuff. So yes, the Duraclear has just the right amount of varnish. And if you want more, you can just put more on. That's one of the nice things, is you can control it. So I've got my little piece glued on. I'm going to put a little dab of glue on the back of this. Good grief, this stuff is so thick. And again, just a little dab will do you. You don't need a ton of it. You could do this with a glue gun. I kind of prefer not to. So I wanted this little guy to stick to the cup, and so that he kind of looked like he was balanced on the edge of the saucer a little bit. And then I'm going to take another one of those little pieces of wood, same thickness, and I'm going to put it in behind his foot here so that he's properly spaced. And I'm going to move him until he's where I want him to be. And then I'm going to set him back on the edge of the table to dry, and he'll be dry in about 10 minutes. So he is only elevated about the thickness of the wood, so 1/8 of an inch. There's not a big elevation there. So once the glue is completely dry, I can just pull this little piece out, and he will rest on the edge of the stand, and one foot rests on the top of the saucer. And that's what you end up with. So I'll set this guy aside to dry. And this is what your finished piece looks like. Completely dry. As I said, there's only 1/8 of an inch space back there. I think he's fun. He's certainly not a difficult piece to paint. He's a great afternoon's painting with sitting with friends. So there you go. Holiday tea and cookies. So next Saturday, we're going to be doing this one to go with it. I just think this one is fun. And again, if you want the handle to go in the other direction, you saw how I transferred my pattern on. I cut the handle off. Just position it that way to flip your piece over and transfer the line drawing on. It's the same shape regardless. And then you can just paint your cookie on. We do have I use the little holly leaves. They're in the kit. Snowflakes are not in the kit because those ones sell separately, but we did tuck one of these in with the star kit. So there you go. That's what we're doing next week. It's called Peppermint Tea and Cookies. That's what we're doing next week. So I will...
You can hit the spin button. Oh, that says spin.
Oh, okay. Renee is here. So Renee is populating our list right now, populating our wheel.
It's populated.
It's populated? Okay. So if you have joined in on the chat, if you've made a comment, liked, shared, all of those things, hit all of the buttons, your name's on the list. So Renee's going to hit the first button, and our giveaways this week are awesome. I have to say, there's a great stamp in there, wonderful butterfly stamp from Multicraft Canada. It's in there. There is a Tombow mono eraser. You've got one of Arteza's white gel pens and one of my black gel pens. Plus there's a cool little stencil and a gorgeous little set of Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brushes. So we have 3 of those to give away today. And Jerry Garvin is the first name. So Jerry, I think we have your shipping information, so don't worry about that one too much. But if you have not been with us before and your name is drawn, make sure you hop onto the website at tracymoreau.net and click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the home page. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Click on the lower right-hand corner of the home page and send us a message with your shipping information.
Drink coffee.
Drink coffee. Oh, point tea.
Tea.
Tea. Drink my tea. That's coffee. Yeah. Losing my voice. Ooh.
Spinning again.
So he's spinning it again. This wheel is so cool.
Paula R.
Paula R. I'm going to say it's Paula Ransdell. So Paula, head over to the website, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner, send me your shipping information and your full name. But I have a pretty good idea that it's Paula Ransdell. She watches all the time. And the last one for today.
Sandy Scales.
Sandy Scales. Awesome. My little friend. Wonderful. So we're going to be, Sandy, I have your shipping information. I know that for a fact. So thanks you guys so much for joining us every Saturday. We really do appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Click on the big old red subscribe button and turn on your bell notification so that you know when we go live and when we post new video. Coming up in September, I have a couple of travel teaching things, so we will not have lives for a couple of weekends in a row. And so we will have video for you. So we'll have a new pattern and a video, so you'll be able to paint along on Saturday afternoons with me, even though I won't be here. Instead, I'm going to be off painting with a couple of other groups, and I'm really looking forward to doing a couple of live classes because I haven't done them in a while. So, to our winners today, Paula Ransdell, Jerry Garvin, and Sandy Scales. Congratulations, ladies. We will get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. It's probably Monday morning. They'll go out in Monday's mail. To you, those of you who have already placed orders for the teacups, thank you very much. And they will be going out first thing Monday as well. We're getting caught up on those. They are back ordered right now, so if you want to reserve one, you can do that. You can still place the order, but it won't ship till they come in, and we're expecting them Monday or Tuesday, so they should be here soon. We have tons of fun stuff coming up for you guys, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Members, don't forget, Tuesday night we have another live in the Facebook group. We're going to be doing Rust, showing you guys how to do Rust this week. So we've got lots of fun stuff planned for that. And keep your eyeballs peeled. I've got a new set of ornaments coming out. We might be doing them as lives. In fact, I'd like to. I think they'd be a lot of fun. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Plus, we've got some fabulous new surfaces and new projects coming up. So having said all of that, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us this week, as you always do. We love you and we appreciate everything that you do for us as well. Everybody, if it's hot where you are, make sure you hydrate. Stay where it's cool. If it's smoky where you are, stay in and look after yourselves. And in general, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the summer because they're telling us we're in for a rough winter. So In the meantime, everybody, stay safe. We love you. See you again soon.
Pet your dog.
Oh, and Renee says, pet your dog.